Tactical considerations developed from prior experiments stress that applying water in the most efficient manner results in decreased temperatures, heat release rates, and fire gas production. Specifically, laboratory experiments were conducted as part of the study of the impact of fire attack utilizing interior and exterior streams on firefighter safety and occupant survival. They showed that achieving proper mapping, or water distribution within the structure, is the quickest means to improving conditions in the structure. In many cases, post-flashover fires in these lab-based structures were extinguished with comparably small total amounts of water, even when the suppression crew used a flow and move approach. Acquired structure experiments in single-family dwellings conducted as part of this study confirmed this conclusion. Let's take a closer look. As you can see here, all the laboratory experiments conducted as part of the original fire attack study used less than 250 gallons of water in the suppression efforts, not including the water required for final mop-up in the fire room. The experiments conducted in this project had comparable total water flows to similar experiments conducted in the laboratory. Here you can see the water used for fire control and the total water usage for the 20 acquired structure experiments. The darker shaded regions, located on the bottom of the individual bars, represent the total amount of water used for the initial knockdown. The lighter shaded regions, located on the top of the individual bars, represent the additional water utilized during overhaul efforts. Like in the laboratory experiments, all experiments used less than 250 gallons of water for fire control. Further, total water usage, including water used for overhaul and extension, was less than 500 gallons. Click the icon to view more details from the experiments, or click Next to continue. Here you can see the average water usage by suppression method. Out of the 20 experiments, the two which used the most water were the two failed ceiling exterior suppressions in Method 4. This is consistent with expectations, since these experiments involved two exterior suppression actions followed by interior extinguishment. The experiments which used the least amount of water were those in Method 6. The water usage among the experiments in Methods 1, 2, and 3 varied from 88 to 181 gallons. The differences in structure layout were partially responsible for some of the differences in cumulative flow between experiments. Experiment 16 had the highest water usage of the 12 interior suppression experiments. In this experiment, the suppression crew adopted a flow and move technique during the advance to the kitchen fire. During suppression, there is an approximately 25-second period in which the nozzle firefighter was directing the stream at a wall outside the kitchen, resulting in a period where suppression was ineffective at reducing kitchen temperatures. This explains why this experiment had a higher cumulative water flow than comparable experiments. It also illustrates how even a flow and move suppression technique with a substantial period of ineffective suppression used less water than the 300-gallon minimum capacity for water tanks on fire apparatus.
When you talk about the amount of water being utilized on a lot of these tests, 250 gallons puts out a ton of fire. But I think the biggest piece is that we have to make sure that we educate our firefighters on how to get water where it needs to go, because if you get water where it needs to go, it doesn't take a lot of water to put that fire out. Whether it's from the interior or exterior, the goal is getting water where it needs to go quickly, and you don't need a lot. And reminding our guys that you've got 500 gallons in your tank or more, let's utilize that, but we've got to continue to get that supply line to get that secondary water source so that we have that backup and that reinforcement. Because you can see in the coordinated attack study that once there's knockdown, we maybe flow 2, 3, 4, 500 gallons of water to complete full extinguishment and overhaul. But to see the numbers to be so comparable, that's a great reinforcement that whether it's in the lab or on the street, the data is the data, and it's all true in there.
I was pretty surprised at the actual numbers. I knew that the water usage was going to be lower than maybe I expected, but it was considerably lower than I expected. And then as far as how does it translate, I think what it does for my department is it deprioritizes that water supply. So instead of having the second two or the first two catch a hydrant on the way in, we might have them come directly to the scene and really get inside the building, help that initial attack line get to the seat of the fire, and start those searches faster. And maybe the third do is going to catch a water supply. And I think that it does a couple things for us. It gets, obviously, people inside the building, gets the initial attack line to the seat of the fire quicker, but it also gets bodies in there to look for, it gets firefighters in there to look for potential victims, whereas before they would be outside trying to establish a water supply.
So long, the fire service has really been focused on GPM, and it's, well, yes, we do want to overcome the heat release rate of the fire with the appropriate amount of GPM. The emphasis is truly should be on the placement of that water, not so much let's not keep increasing GPM numbers, let's figure out how we can most economically use that water. So once you've overcome that figure, it's just getting the water where it needs to go to have its intended effect. And I'm proud to say that my department I work for, we have always placed that high emphasis on early water application, and our first due commits directly to fire attack and has for a considerable amount of time. And that's because the longer that we wait on putting water in the fire, the larger the fire is going to get, and the more water we're going to need cumulatively.
The bottom line is that getting the water to where it needs to go quickly reduces exposures, maintains survivable space, and limits the total amount of water required for extinguishment in single-family structures. Use this menu to navigate the content in this section.